Joining us now, Congressman Darrell Issa from House Judiciary, along with Fox News contributor and the media columnist for The Hill. He's Joe Concha. It's great to have you both. Thanks for spending time with us on a Friday. First to you, Congressman, why did House Judiciary send preservation notices to Twitter over Elon Musk's takeover bid?
Because it's so important for us to find out why, instead of meeting their fiduciary obligation, which would have been to either say yes or counter that offer, they did a poison pill, and they clearly do not want free speech to be part of what Twitter does. And after Twitter shut down the Biden story, with, by the way, the force of government behind them in some ways, we have to ask the question of, is there, in fact, a bias against free speech at that organization and a bias on one side of a party, even when they have an obligation to consider a very generous offer? So, yes, we want to know, and we want to know particularly just as much as we want to know why the Department of Justice and FBI was giving false information to Twitter to help them shut down the New York Post. So, you know, I heard what he said just before coming on with former President Obama. Former President Obama finds that very convenient to say now, but the fact is our founding fathers expect free speech not to be shut down either directly or indirectly by government, and that's what's happening right now.
And to the congressman's point, Joe, why is Barack Obama talking now?
That's a very good question. We didn't really hear from him all that much, right? Even during the Trump years, quite frankly. Now he seems to be a lot more vocal, a lot more out there, including now reports that the current president and Biden had told him that he's running again in 2024, and that was conveniently leaked out to the press. So I can't answer that question, Elizabeth. There's a reason for everything. There are no accidents or coincidences. I think that was Freud who said that. So he's there for a reason, but obviously he can't run again. But he's visible. That's certainly for sure.
It's a good point. And, you know, Congressman, this is a free speech fight, as you both have been pointing out. If Musk takes over Twitter, we may finally see how Twitter decides what we can see, right, or hear about. The media is in a meltdown over this when Twitter allows on its site Al-Qaeda, you know, Mideast terrorists, Iran's ayatollahs, but bans or restricts conservatives. So that's what's going on there with that fight. I want to move on to this. President Biden made a mistake in the fight with between Florida and Disney. He's going after Florida's parental rights law, claiming it's about don't say gay, when the law does not say that. You know, Biden made the same mistake, Congressman, when he went after Georgia's vote reform bill, right? He called it Jim Crow 2.0. I mean, it's easier to vote now in Georgia than it is in New York or Biden's home state of Delaware.
Well, exactly. Look, being on the wrong side of history is something that Joe Biden's done for his whole career. I think the important thing is that the people of Florida are delighted. The polls all show they're delighted that parents are going to have some authority over their kindergartner not hearing or seeing things that are completely inappropriate to that child's formative years, or at least if they're going to hear it, they don't hear it from a teacher who may not have any special training or sensitivity. They hear it from their parent.
Yeah, to the congressman's point, Joe, Democrats in Florida say this is about retaliation. If Florida's new law stops teachers instructing children in kindergarten through third grade on sexual orientation and gender identity, Joe, at age 5, children can't even read or write. So why bring adult themes into their classroom? Florida has sex education in later grades anyway.
That's the thing. I have a kindergartner, right? And he's on what's called his sight words right now. And, you know, there is no sentences. There is no real, he's in kindergarten, right? So he is who he is. And I also have a second grader as well. And like so many Florida parents who support this bill, I don't want my kids being taught at that age about sex or sexual orientation or gender identity. And Disney took a side here, all right? And they were also dishonest about what this law does. And now Ron DeSantis is saying, okay, no more special tax status for you. And if Joe Biden wants to be part of the anti-parent party, remember what happened in Virginia, where basically he took the teachers' unions and Terry McAuliffe's side. Go right ahead, because, again, this is going to be stunning in terms of what happens here in the midterms if Joe Biden and the Democrats decide that they're going to side with woke Disney against parents in Florida, just like they did in Virginia. We
Yeah.
saw what Glenn Youngkin did there in a state that Joe Biden won by 10 points.
And Congressman, what Joe is saying, this is about defending ordinary families from powerful woke corporations. I mean, Florida basically ruling that Disney does not deserve its self-governing status because it's not appropriately serving the public interest. Disney is actively publicly lobbying against the right of parents to have a say in whether their 5-year-olds to 3rd graders are exposed to sexually explicit subject matter. I mean, they shouldn't even hearing about straight marriages or relationships, gay or straight, right? I mean, so you hear state Democrat lawmakers say this is retaliation and this is, just payback against Disney, but it's bigger than that, Congressman, no?
Absolutely. Obviously, Disney overreached by deciding that they were a sovereign entity able to object. The fact is, they don't have schools inside their theme park, and they've had a special tax treatment that allows them not to pay for the schools of their employees in surrounding communities. That was a simple decision. It was a good decision. The big thing that we're seeing in Florida and around the country is the voters are not actually moving one direction or the other. They're seeing their parties move, in the case of the Democratic Party, extremely in the wrong direction. And as a result, they are changing who they vote for. And I think that's an important difference that Joe Biden has to have. Another example, as you know, Joe Biden has already eliminated Title 42. I was at the border for the previous 2 days. They are already bringing back in those people from Title 42. The American people object to it. The Border Patrol objects to it. It makes no sense. And yet, this administration's doing it.
Got it. Congressman Issa and Joe Concha, it's great to have you on. It's so interesting, that story, because Universal and SeaWorld don't get the same special tax status that Disney got. It's great to have you both on. Thanks for joining us.